They were once immortal gods on the silver screen, radiant smiles that melted the entire world, glittering dance moves beneath the stage lights, and fiery kisses that made millions of hearts stop beating. But when the lights went out, all that remained were white pill bottles, overdue debt notices, shabby rented rooms, and silent deaths that no one noticed. From a little girl forced to swallow pills to keep a childlike body for fairy tale roles, to a blonde icon who once mesmerized the entire planet and later traded away her dignity just to earn a few dollars for alcohol, to a century-defining sex symbol whose body lay undiscovered for days after death. And one person whose ending, when you hear it, will make you pause the video for a moment, because the pain hits for real. Are you ready to look straight into the secrets Hollywood has kept hidden? 1. Errol Flynn. Errol was born in 1909 in Tasmania. Australia grew up in a wandering family and quickly rose as Hollywood's bad boy through swashbuckling adventure films like Captain Blood. He embodied the ideal man, tall, handsome, with a magnetic charm that made women swoon and men feel envy. But behind that glamorous exterior, Errol was sinking into darkness. In 1942, at the height of his fame, he was accused of raping 2 underage girls, a shocking scandal that sent the press into a frenzy. Even though he was acquitted after the trial, his reputation was permanently damaged, and the phrase in Like Flynn suggesting effortless seduction emerged from this very tragedy, a label he certainly never wished to carry. Errol also associated with questionable figures, including Hermann Erbin, a Nazi spy, and even wrote letters expressing admiration for Hitler, prompting the FBI to open a surveillance file on him for years. In his diary, he once confessed, "I live like a king, but feel like a beggar." His reckless lifestyle led to severe alcoholism and substance abuse, turning the once powerful body of the cinematic knight into ruins. By 1959, Errol died at the age of 50 from a heart attack, but the autopsy revealed a body as frail as that of an 85-year-old man with his liver and heart severely damaged after decades of neglect. His estate, estimated at $1.5 million, became so tangled that it took 14 years of legal battles to resolve, burdened by debts and lawsuits from his extravagant way of life. His son Sean Flynn later recalled in interview footage the letters his father sent from the yacht Zaka, pleading for financial help but ignored, sounding like cries from a lost soul. To this day, he remains an inspiration for modern adventure films such as Pirates of the Caribbean, and his life story has been revisited in documentaries like The Last of Robin Hood, serving as a reminder of the dark side of fame. Errol Flynn was a symbol of freedom and adventure on screen, but in real life, his story became a chain of tragedies with no escape, where fame only deepened the wounds. From that fallen knight, we move on to a bombshell who once shone brilliantly before being crushed without mercy by society and Hollywood itself. Dose, Clara Bow. Born into poverty with a mentally ill mother and an abusive father in Brooklyn, the young Clara Bow always dreamed of escaping that environment. She entered a beauty contest and quickly rose to prominence. Using the opportunities this brought, she appeared in more than 50 films, earning thousands of dollars a week at her peak. She was the true it girl, representing confidence and modern female allure with irresistibly vibrant performances that captivated audiences. Romantic scandals and mental health struggles, later diagnosed as bipolar disorder, destroyed everything in the early 1930s. Rumors of a Hollywood blacklist due to her free-spirited lifestyle and scandalous relationships were confirmed through biographies, leading studios to reject her, even while her talent remained. She withdrew from Hollywood in 1931, lived in isolation, on a ranch, turned to gambling and alcohol to numb the pain. Her marriage collapsed and her health steadily deteriorated. Clara died in 1965 at the age of 60 from a heart attack, leaving behind only a few $1,000s and overwhelming medical debts, a lonely ending for someone who had once symbolized an entire generation. Her legacy faded so deeply that her grave was initially left unattended, even as her flapper smile continued to represent the freedom of the 1920s. Clara Bow was once the it girl, but Hollywood never truly cared about the person behind that it. 3. Barbara Payton. Barbara was born in 1927 in Minnesota, grew up in a middle-class family, and quickly conquered Hollywood with her stunning beauty signing with Universal in the late 1940s. Her image as a seductive blonde bombshell in Kiss Tomorrow, Goodbye 1950, remains haunting, with Barbara Payton smiling radiantly beside James Cagney. She embodied the American dream, from a small-town girl to a star who captivated millions with lethal charm. Everything shattered after the infamous love triangle scandal of 1951, when her lover Tom Neal brutally beat Franchot Tone, then her fiancé, into a coma, leaving his nose and cheekbones crushed. Barbara was publicly shamed for years. In despair, she once whispered, "I only wanted to love, but they turned it into a crime." Combined with her notorious partying lifestyle, studios turned away, contracts were canceled, and she was pushed into obscurity. Alcohol addiction then swept everything away, transforming her from a beauty into a wanderer on Sunset Boulevard, trading her dignity for as little as $5 a time to buy liquor. Arrested repeatedly for public intoxication, writing bad checks, and selling her body, Barbara descended into hell. By the mid-1950s, friends described her living in a filthy basement in San Diego. Her face, swollen teeth, missing weight over 200 pounds, unrecognizable as the bombshell who once mesmerized millions. The most tragic aspect was Hollywood's gender double standard, where male stars could live recklessly and still be forgiven, while women like Barbara were destroyed without mercy. Her autobiography, Yeah, I Am Not Ashamed, published in 1963, was a final attempt to tell her story, but it only further exploited her pain, turning tragedy into commodity. She died in 1967 at the age of 39 from heart and liver failure, her body exhausted, and her remains lay in the morgue for days before her parents claimed them. Barbara's legacy remains a warning about gender injustice, with her story retold in books and documentaries like Hollywood Babylon, influencing modern discussions around the Me Too movement and the treatment of women in show business. 4. Judy Garland, the Heartbreaking One. In the glittering world of Hollywood, the image of little Dorothy skipping along the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz 1939 still echoes. That was Judy Garland, a symbol of childhood hope, and also someone forced to hide the pain of relentless exploitation. Judy, born in 1922 as Frances Ethel Gumm, grew up under stage lights from early childhood, pushed into show business by her family to survive. As a teenager, she signed with MGM, and that marked the true beginning of her nightmare. Studio executives led by Louis B. Mayer forced her to take amphetamines from the age of 13 to suppress appetite and maintain the thin little girl image they wanted to sell. At night, barbiturates were given to make her sleep for a few hours before returning to 18-hour shooting days. Her life became a hellish loop extreme, dieting on chicken soup, black coffee, and smoking 80 cigarettes a day, all to sustain a perfect illusion. On screen, behind the radiant smiles, Judy was breaking. She once whispered to friends, "I just want to be normal, but they won't allow it." By her late 20s, she had attempted to end her life multiple times, and after MGM fired her in 1950, she slit her throat with broken glass in despair, surviving by chance. Even as she tried to return through films, recordings, and television, she never escaped addiction and debt. Judy died in 1969 at the age of 47 from an accidental overdose of strong sleeping pills in a rented bathroom in London, completely bankrupt, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax debt to the IRS, and having been evicted from hotels with her children. More tragically, after her death, the press continued to label her an alcoholic, even though the autopsy showed her liver was entirely normal, disproving the slander. Judy's legacy remains powerful. Over the Rainbow stands as an eternal symbol, inspiring generations of singers like Ariana Grande and biopics such as Judy 2019, which earned Renee Zellweger an Oscar. Her life also exposes the dark side of Hollywood, where children are exploited and legacies are commercialized. 5. Rosco Arbuckle. The image of the cheerful comedian in The Butcher Boy 1917 still makes people smile, with Rosco "Fatty" Arbuckle throwing himself into slapstick chaos mentor to Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, once a symbol of silent joy before the media turned him into a monster overnight. Born in 1887 in Kansas, Rosco grew up in poverty and rose to become one of the biggest comedy stars of the silent era, signing a Paramount contract in 1921. Worth $3 million, equivalent to $46 million. Today making him the highest-paid entertainer in the world. His life looked like a dream: lavish mansions, thriving investments, and audience adoration. Tragedy struck during Labor Day weekend of 1921 when he attended a party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, where actress Virginia Rappe was also present. She died days later from chronic infection and complications linked to an illegal abortion. The press, driven by William Randolph Hearst, sensationalized the scandal, accusing Rosco of raping and killing Virginia, with his own body weight turning him from star to villain in the public eye. After 3 long trials, with the final jury issuing a public apology for the injustice he endured, the damage could not be undone. With his image ruined, Hollywood banned him from acting, leading to the loss of his home and investments, and forcing him to direct under the alias William Goodrich to survive. Those years were hell-old films pulled from theaters, his name becoming toxic and Rosco sinking into despair. In 1933, just after Warner Brothers offered him a second chance with 3 short comedies, he died at the age of 46 from a heart attack in his sleep before filming a single scene. And his wife later shared in an interview that the night before was the first time she had ever seen him cry from happiness. To this day, Rosco remains an inspiration for films about wrongful accusations such as The Life of Emile Zola, and he is recognized as a pioneer of comedy, honored at silent film festivals as a victim of media persecution long after his death. 6. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy was born in 1920 in Ohio, grew up in a family of performers, and quickly rose as a rare talent. The image of the seductive Carmen in Carmen Jones has always mesmerized audiences, with Dorothy Dandridge dancing with a proud smile and burning eyes, a symbol of the Black Revolution in Hollywood. At the same time, that very actress was suffocated to the extreme by racism. After refusing stereotypical roles such as maids or slaves, and earning opportunities to perform demanding roles with great depth, Hollywood at that time still paid her less than her white counterparts. Dorothy's personal life grew even more tragic when her daughter Marilyn was born with a severe brain disability, forcing her to place her child in institutional care, creating an enormous financial burden that she carried alone through her scarce acting work. Dorothy once confided to her sisters, "I fight for my dream, but all they see is my skin color." Becoming the first Black woman nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1954 marked a historic milestone. But when her career should have flourished, racism caused studios to turn their backs, pushing her into depression and dependence on alcohol and medication. By 1963, Dorothy was bankrupt, had lost her dream Hollywood home, and owed the IRS up to $150,000 in back taxes, equivalent to more than $1.3 million today. She died in 1965 at the age of 42 from an overdose of antidepressants in a lonely apartment with only $2.14 in her bank account, a heartbreaking number for an icon. The most tragic detail is that she was on the verge of a comeback at that time, with her hair curled and makeup ready for a new role, but fate did not allow it. Her sisters later recalled in interview videos the unanswered letters pleading for help, moments when she asked for financial support and no one responded. Dorothy's legacy thus became a driving force, paving the way for later generations such as Halle Berry, who also won an Oscar and paid tribute to her. 7. Marie Provost. Marie was born in 1896 in Canada, grew up in poverty, and rose to become one of Mack Sennett's famous bathing beauties before turning into a talented comedy actress in the 1920s, earning $1,000 a week, equivalent to $15,000 today, appearing in more than 120 films alongside major directors and stars. Life at that time was a dream party's fame and admiration from audiences who loved her radiant smile. Tragedy struck in 1926 when her mother died in a car accident, a loss that led Marie into heavy drinking, and then talking pictures arrived, pushing her aside as studios favored younger performers. She gained weight, her drinking worsened, and her roles gradually shrank into uncredited supporting parts, sometimes without her name even appearing. By the early 1930s, Marie was living in a filthy apartment, lonely and exhausted, and she died in 1937 at the age of 38 from alcoholism combined with malnutrition. Her body weighing only 92 pounds, a painful collapse from her former beauty. The most haunting detail is the legend of her dachshund said to have gnawed at her leg in an attempt to wake her after she lay motionless for days. A tragic story confirmed through biographies and Hollywood accounts. This image later inspired Nick Lowe's song Marie Provost, with the lyric "She was a winner who became the doggy's dinner." Joan Crawford, remembering her old friend, paid for the funeral, but Marie's grave remained unmarked until 1934, when Hollywood Memorial Cemetery finally placed a headstone, one that was heartbreakingly simple. Marie stands as proof of a powerful yet cold Hollywood, ready to crush the very names it once lifted to the highest heights. 8. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn was born in 1926 as Norma Jean Mortensen grew up amid the chaos of the foster care system, moving through 11 different homes and spending 2 years in an orphanage where her bodily safety was violated from the age of 8 wounds that followed her throughout her life. Her mother Gladys suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and was confined to a psychiatric hospital, leaving Norma Jean to face a harsh world alone from an early age. When she entered Hollywood, 20th Century Fox completely reshaped her, forcing her to dye her brown hair into a shining blonde, undergo surgery on her jaw and nose, and construct the dumb blonde image with a breathy voice, a role that made her feel imprisoned. Her salary for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was noticeably low, only $18,000, while Jane Russell earned $100,000, a gap that reflected how Hollywood exploited her as a commodity. Marilyn once whispered in her diary, "I don't care about money. I just want to be appreciated." Her romantic life was a chain of tragedies. 3 failed marriages, notorious affairs with the Kennedy brothers supported by biographical evidence, and endometriosis that caused severe pain and led to multiple miscarriages even though she desperately wanted a child. To endure it all, she relied on barbiturates and alcohol substances that slowly eroded her mental health. In 1962, Marilyn died at the age of 36 in her Brentwood home from an overdose, a death that remains disputed between intentional departure and accident. Her estate at the time was only $800,000, while today her image generates hundreds of millions, becoming one of the largest posthumous fortunes in history that she never lived to access. Marilyn remains a cultural icon to this day, with countless biographical films and her image used in fashion and modern art. Marilyn Monroe is a legend that lives on, but behind that smile was a life exploited to exhaustion, a tragedy that forces us to question how society treats its icons. 9. Frances Farmer. Come and Get It. In 1936 presented Frances Farmer with resolute eyes and a rebellious spirit, a symbol of resistance against the Hollywood system, who was punished so brutally that she lost herself entirely. Frances was born in 1913. In Seattle, grew up with a sharp intellect and won a high school writing contest with her controversial essay, God Dies, an early sign of independence, that made her stand out while also turning her into a target. After building a career on stage and screen, she signed with Paramount in 1936 and starred alongside Bing Crosby and Cary Grant. But Frances refused to play by the rules. No publicity stunts, no studio control over her private life, and open criticism of shallow roles written for women. This rebellion made her an enemy of gossip columnists and executives. By 1942, a series of arrests began: driving with headlights on during wartime blackouts, assaulting a hairdresser, violating probation, and in court, her defiant behavior was portrayed as evidence of madness. Her mother, under pressure, forced her into a sanitarium in Washington state, beginning 7 years of hell. Frances wrote in letters from the asylum, "This is unbearable torture." But those pleas were ignored. She endured insulin shock therapy that caused seizures and comas, ice baths lasting 6 hours, abuse from staff and male patients, and possibly a lobotomy through the eye socket, a claim still debated, though electroconvulsive therapy without anesthesia is certain. Modern psychiatrists reviewing her case describe it as a mental illness constructed to punish non-compliance, suggesting it may have been alcoholism and bipolar disorder conditions now treated far more humanely. When she was released in 1950, Frances was only an empty shell, and she later died in 1970 at the age of 56 from esophageal cancer. Her legacy stands as a cautionary tale for women who dared to defy a story that fuels outrage at how society remained silent in the face of suffering. 10. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery was born in 1920 in Nebraska, grew up in a wealthy but isolated family, and became a pioneer of method acting alongside Marlon Brando and James Dean, delivering performances in Red River and From Here to Eternity, with psychological depth rarely seen in male actors of that era. Unlike many rising stars, he refused long-term studio contracts, choosing to work freelance to control his career, a revolutionary decision at the time. His life changed forever on the night of May 12, 1956, after a party at Elizabeth Taylor's home when he fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into a telephone pole. His handsome face shattered with a broken nose and jaw and partial facial paralysis. Taylor, his close friend, rushed to the scene and saved his life by pulling 2 teeth lodged in his throat, a heroic act amid chaos. Physical recovery was a nightmare, and even though he returned to filming Raintree County just 9 weeks later, the crew had to shoot from his right side to hide the trauma. Chronic pain became the real killer, driving him into dependence on alcohol and painkillers, causing erratic behavior and severe memory loss that required cue cards placed around the set. Even so, his post-accident performances were deeper than ever, as seen in Judgment at Nuremberg in 1961, earning his 4th Oscar nomination, where personal pain fused seamlessly with the role. In 1966, Montgomery died at the age of 45 from a heart attack in his New York apartment, his body worn down like that of an old man with organs damaged by years of self-destruction. Montgomery Clift's method acting legacy continues to influence actors such as Joaquin Phoenix, with documentaries like My Own Private River honoring him as a pioneer of emotional performance. Montgomery Clift lost his perfect looks, but his talent and emotional depth still shine a painful reminder that fame can take everything except art. Veronica Lake. Veronica was born in 1922 in Brooklyn, grew up in an unstable family, and quickly rose to fame in the 1940s with her cold, seductive noir roles alongside Alan Ladd, turning her into one of Paramount's brightest stars. The alluring peekaboo hairstyle in This Gun for Hire, with golden blonde hair covering one eye, created a mysterious and irresistible image for Veronica Lake. That hairstyle was not only a trademark, but also a curse. During World War II, it was believed to cause factory accidents when women imitated it, and their hair got caught in machinery, leading to rumors that the government asked her to cut her hair to prevent its influence. After the war, personal scandals and alcoholism followed. Her marriages collapsed, and her career declined as studios no longer wanted her. From a dazzling star, Veronica fell into poverty, working as a waitress in a New York restaurant where customers sometimes recognized her and looked at her only with pity. She died in 1973 at the age of 50, from liver failure and chronic kidney inflammation, burdened by mounting medical debt, her body remaining in the morgue for days before being identified. Her autobiography, Veronica, published in 1969, detailed that tragedy with a bitter tone, like a final confession of a life devoured by fame. Her children later spoke in interview videos about unanswered letters pleading for financial or emotional help, with no replies, leaving her to sink into loneliness. Veronica's hairstyle legacy lives on in popular culture, but she herself was forgotten, a painful contrast between an immortal image and fragile reality. 12. Bela Lugosi. Bela was born in 1882 in Hungary, became a renowned stage actor in his homeland, and emigrated to the United States after World War I with injuries that led him to rely on morphine for pain relief, a habit that followed him throughout his life. He became a star playing Count Dracula, his deep voice and aristocratic presence sending chills through audiences. But that role became a prison studio's only wanted him as a vampire or monster, rejecting all other roles and trapping him in a cycle of failure. His personal life grew increasingly tragic, with multiple failed marriages, mounting debt, and morphine addiction that destroyed his health. By the 1950s, he was reduced to cheap supporting roles in B-movies, even working with Ed Wood, widely regarded as Hollywood's worst director on Plan 9 from Outer Space, creating a strange story of friendship between two forgotten men. Bela died in 1956 at the age of 73, from a heart attack with only $1,000 left in his account, a pitiful sum for someone who had once been a horror icon. He was buried in his Dracula cape, a verified final request, a gesture both darkly ironic and deeply moving. Bela's legacy is the immortal vampire obsession on screen, while his real life was a prolonged nightmare where fame brought only confinement rather than freedom. He remains an inspiration for modern horror films such as Hotel Transylvania, is honored in horror museums, and is also cited today as a classic example of typecasting in acting lessons. 13. Peg Entwistle. Peg was born in 1908 in England, moved to the United States with her parents, and quickly joined the Broadway stage. She received a small role in 13 Women, a horror film, but it brought no further opportunities. The studio cut her scenes, pushing her into deep disappointment during the Great Depression. Depression intensified, combined with poverty and a sense of abandonment, drawing Peg into despair. She sought other chances in Hollywood, but failed. In 1932, at the age of 24, she climbed onto the letter H of the Hollywood sign, a symbol of cinematic dreams, and jumped, leaving this world in poverty after complete unemployment. Her suicide note found beside her body read briefly, "I am afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." The message was verified through biographies and period newspapers, becoming a tragic symbol of shattered dreams. Rumors later spread that having her role cut from a major project pushed her to the edge, although no firm evidence exists, but that pain continues to echo long after. Peg left no major film legacy, only one small role, but her death turned the Hollywood sign into a symbol of tragedy, a reminder of thousands of young people who came here with hope and were forgotten. 14. John Gilbert. The image of the romantic lead opposite Greta Garbo in Flesh and the Devil in 1926 remains so intense that modern audiences still hold their breath, with John Gilbert embracing Garbo in what was then the longest kiss on screen. His aristocratic presence and love-struck gaze making him the king of the silent era, a symbol of romance without words. John was born in 1897 in Utah, grew up in a family of traveling performers, and quickly became a major MGM star with enchanting romantic roles, earning thousands of dollars a week and being dubbed the great lover of silent cinema. Tragedy struck when sound films emerged in the late 1920s. John's voice, smooth on stage, was judged unsuitable for talking pictures, high-pitched and unfamiliar to audiences. Rumors spread that Louis B. Mayer, the MGM mogul, deliberately sabotaged him by recording his voice at a higher frequency to distort it, a detail confirmed through biographies and accounts from insiders. John turned to alcohol to fill the emptiness left by failed marriages and roles that shrank from leading man to supporting parts. From a man who once drove women wild, John fell into poverty, debt, and isolation. He died in 1936 at the age of 38, from a heart attack, his body weakened by alcohol, an early and heartbreaking end for the king of silent romance. Garbo, who had once loved him deeply, was said to have sent letters everywhere, seeking financial help for him, all ignored, or never reaching their destination, leaving him to die in Hollywood's silence. John's legacy lives on in the immortal kisses of silent cinema, inspiring later films such as The Artist, which won an Oscar. He is also honored in film museums as a victim of technological transition. 15. Mabel Normand. Mabel was born in 1892 in New York, grew up in poverty, and quickly became a star under Mack Sennett, writing, directing, and starring in numerous short films, paving the way for women in comedy when few dared to imagine it. She mentored Charlie Chaplin in the early stages of his career. Mabel's radiant image and explosive energy earned her the nickname Mabel the Madcap. Among men, her success stood out as a symbol of intelligence and talent crossing gender boundaries. Then came the 1922 murder scandal. William Desmond Taylor, director, and her lover was killed by a gunshot, and Mabel was suspected, despite a lack of convincing evidence. The rumors spread faster and more violently than anyone expected, combined with her public cocaine addiction turning the press and public against her. The scandal destroyed her career, contracts were canceled, studios refused to hire her, friends grew cold or distant, and Mabel fell into chronic illness as tuberculosis drained her strength. She lived in poverty, attempting comebacks again and again without success. Mabel died alone in 1930 at the age of 37, her body utterly exhausted and her mind shattered after years of struggling in despair. A tragic end for a woman who had once pioneered female comedy. Her legacy faded, even though she was a true pioneer, opening the path for figures like Lucille Ball and many others. Still, Mabel remains an inspiration for female comedians such as Tina Fey, with film festivals honoring her as a forgotten pioneer. And so we have reached the end of a journey through 16 tragic stories from Hollywood's golden age stars who once shone brilliantly on the silver screen, only to fade away in poverty, loneliness, and obscurity. From a girl who sang about rainbows but never truly found the light, to women who embodied freedom and glamour, yet ended their lives in silent pain. From victims of media scandals to those crushed by racism and talents destroyed by fame itself. All of them remind us of a bitter truth. Hollywood glamour is not eternal. It is often a curse that hides pain, exploitation, and the indifference of the very system that created them. These stories are not only the past, they still echo today, as celebrities continue to face pressure, scandal, and abandonment. Hollywood has changed with stronger unions and better awareness of mental health, but the shadow of exploitation remains, and its nature is as fragile as ever. Today you are everything, and the next day you can be nothing. Thank you for staying with me through this video. If these stories touched your heart, leave a comment below. Which of the 16 made you the saddest? Like and subscribe so you do not miss future videos about the dark secrets of show business, and turn on the notification bell. We will meet many more tragedies and also inspiring stories ahead. See you again, and remember, behind the stage lights there are always shadows that need to be told. Goodbye.